What's up, everybody? It's LaVar Arrington here with another exciting edition of Up On Game Presents Conversations with a Legend. This week, I'm having a conversation with one of the GOATs of GOATs. That's right, Orlando Pace, Super Bowl champ Orlando Pace, who anchored the line for the greatest show on turf. Also was a dope dude in college, blocked for the likes of Eddie George, was an All-American at Ohio State, has just been a stud his entire life and entire career. But we're going to talk about what he feels about naming, image, likeness, the N.I.L, branding, doing business. What does it all make sense to for him, and how does he go about it? We're going to talk about all that and more on Conversations with a Legend. It's starting right now. All right, now this is a special one right here. This guy, he's an Ohio State Buckeye. Could possibly be the greatest Buckeye of them all. We got my man, Hall of Famer Orlando Pace, on the Up On Game Presents Conversations with a Legend. What is happening, my guy?
What's going on, LaVar, man? It's been a long time, man. Good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Same.
Obviously, we got a history going way back to our Penn State days, Ohio State days.
Indeed.
In our NFL days, man. So really, it's a pleasure to be on and joining you on your podcast.
Man, I appreciate you coming on. And this wouldn't be Conversations with a Legend without talking to some true legends. So from Ohio, went to Sandusky High. One of the greats to ever do it out of the state, end up doing it at Ohio State. First freshman, I believe, to start, true freshman. And just an epic storybook career, and so many great things happened to you. We're going to touch on those things. But first, got to ask, man, because it's been a while for us since we'd have played. Yep. What do you have going on these days? What is Old Pace up to these days? I know you're busy.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my passion projects I was able to get into with the league is the Legends community, as you know. And what we do, I'm a coordinator for the Legends community, and what we do is we reach back in the community and find those guys, those retired guys that maybe lost their way a little bit and not connected with their community and not connected with their team. And one of the great things that we do is we call everybody a legend, because you're a legend in your community where you played. If you made it to the National Football League, LaVar, as you always be a legend to somebody. And what we want to do is grab those guys, hug them, tell them, hey, have them let them know all the benefits that's afforded to them. And then just put our arms around them and say, hey, man, we're a brotherhood. We love you. Come back in the fold, and let's, and let's continue to build on what we started. So just excited to be a part of that community. It has grown over the last, 7-8 years. So I'm really happy to be a part of that program, and really just helping guys get back re-engaged with their former teammates and in their community.
Yeah, love that. All right. So getting them back into the communities and getting them plugged in. What are you plugged into anything else that you got going on?
Yeah, for me, I consider myself a serial entrepreneur, man.
Okay, sweet.
So one thing that I'm working on now, I'm kind of taking the Warren Buffett approach to investing, but on the entrepreneurial side. And I'm creating my own fund of small businesses that I purchase myself.
Nice.
In different sectors of the game. I have a storage business, a mobile storage business. I have a dumpster business. So I have like 3 or 4 companies that I manage, that I own, and just trying to grow those businesses now, create my own fund. Obviously when we leave the game, obviously there's a lot of, I was 34 when I left. So wow, I still want my brain to continue to move.
Yes.
And being in business and being an entrepreneur is something I really have a passion for. And just developing those businesses, watch them grow, and then, kind of go from there.
I love that. All right. So let me ask you this then, because I got a sequence of questions that I like to ask, but I'm gonna skip to this one because being a serial entrepreneur, you understand the value of what it takes to tell the story, how that plays a part in your customers and building the business and building the brand.
Yes.
So when you think about branding, how important is that to you? And do you relate how you branded yourself? Because there's very few that was able to brand themselves the way that you did as a lineman. People may not realize how hard that is to make yourself a household brand when you play line. And you did it. Like, people know the name Orlando Pace, Pace, Pancake Man. They know who you are. How important was it for you in college or coming up, even in high school? How important was branding to you? Were you aware of it? Like, what's your take on it?
Well, for me, it was being a lineman. As you know, we don't get a lot of credibility unless, or a lot of notoriety unless we jump off sides or do something stupid. So for me, in my goal into trying to get to the NFL, I wanted to stand out. So in college, obviously I wanted to do things where announcers can talk about me, people could actually see some good things. So I created a pancake block. You might see me 50 yards downfield, running to block a linebacker or a cornerback or something. And that was sort of the branding aspect of it, where I wanted to be the best player I can be. And I knew coming with that, then obviously the brand gonna take care of itself. If you get notarized and they're talking about Heisman and all these different things, people are going to notice you. And I've been fortunate enough, to be honest with you, just to carry that on to the NFL. People recognize who you are. And there's so many things that we do, that we've done in sports, that we can carry on a business: our hard work, our dedication, our commitment to our craft, and our branding. To your point, where you go into, when I take a meeting, people already know who I am. So there's a different approach that they take. So not only am I selling myself, I'm selling my business as well. And what young people need to realize is, and we're in the age of social media today, is who you are, who you put on that screen or on that social media site. That's who you are. That's who people are going to see who you are. So I always caution young kids, no matter what, that's your brand. And you want your brand to look good 10, 15, 20 years down the road. If somebody goes back and says, hey, let's see what type of guy Orlando Pace is. I want that to be consistent throughout. So in business, people respect you by that too, just in terms of how you carry yourself.
Speaking of businesses, and you have businesses and taking business meetings, the NIL.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
the naming, image, likeness game was around when you were in school, what would Pace be doing?
Man, I'd be running to the bank cashing checks if I could, man. But these guys are in a unique situation. And I just had a conversation the other day about it. Their learning curve is a lot sooner than ours. We didn't learn about finances and things like that till we got into the National Football League, and people started teaching us about different deals. I hope somebody's educating these kids on taxes, or obviously they get $100,000. They have to understand,
you got to pay
when tax season rolls around.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes,
you got to pay Uncle Sam. So, but obviously, I wish I would have been paid, because I remember walking around in college and walking through in Columbus, walking through the Foot Locker and seeing my jersey up there, and I'm wondering to myself, who's getting this money? Where are these funds going? And they weren't coming to me because I could barely eat, or at the time. So for me, it was one of those things. I'm glad they're doing something. Hopefully they regulate it, and hopefully these guys really stay hungry, LaVar. That's the problem. When you're getting that kind of money, do you still have that hunger and passion to go on to in that goal to strive to be in the NFL or whatever you aspire to do at the time? But it would have been great for me. I can't lie to you. It would have been awesome to receive some funds and that kind of thing. That not only help myself out, but help my family out while I was in college.
Would you now, you came out early, right?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Would you have stayed if something like that had yielded you significant, income to be able to sustain yourself and maybe your family?
I think all things being the same, I always say this: if somebody could have promised me, even in this current state, somebody could have promised me I would have been injured free. I would have. I love college, man. I love being there, the
Sure.
atmosphere, everything about it. Now, if you throw some big numbers my way, I probably wouldn't be so fast to say, "Hey, I'm going to the NFL or whatever," because I was doing okay in college. But part of the reason is because part of the reason leaving early from Ohio State was simply because, man, we were broke. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So,
Right.
somebody say, hey, man, you're good enough to play in the National Football League. By the way, you're going to be the number one pick. It doesn't get any higher than that. So I probably would have taken off anyway. But, I think the NIL would at least enhance my college experience.
Sure. Sure. All right. Now, you mentioned staying hungry and staying like true to it, even though you're collecting a check. Do you have a vivid moment in your life growing up where becoming what you ultimately ended up becoming was a defining moment? Was it a place? Was it a person in that place? Was it something that took place that just totally made O-Pace turn into O-Pace? Can you think of a moment?
I do, man. To be honest with you, I remember I was getting recruited by Ohio State, and I was going up for a summer visit. And at the time, I was with Corey Stringer, who was a great
Yeah.
offensive tackle with Ohio State. Yep.
Yeah.
And then Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson, and he was the number one pick, I believe, in 1994 or something like that. And for me, to be honest with you, that was the first time I seen a young African American man. He had a Mercedes Benz, had this house, he had the leather green sofa, all the things that Biggie Smalls talked about in his rap video years ago. And then it was all legit. He was only 21 years old. And I said, man, hold on. This is life-changing. Like, we all dreamed about being in the NFL, but you actually see a young brother doing this thing, Big Dan Wilkinson. And I was like, man, hold on. This is what I'm changing my whole, like, hey, ain't nobody gonna stop me on this deal. So
Right.
when I walked on the field, I really took that approach. I was like, man, look, I don't care who in front of me, man. I'm taking care of business because I got to get to that next level. So that hunger, when I saw young, I said, man, hold on. This changed my whole perspective because now it's obtainable. Now I'm on the stage. Ohio State's going to provide me this platform to show my skill. Man, I could care less who was lining up in front of me. They weren't going to stop me at the time. So, it's funny. Just that one experience had me thinking completely different because up until that time, you had seen some brothers, maybe they were doing something illegal, but until I seen somebody doing something really positive and really doing it at a high level, that changed my whole life, man.
Wow. That's pretty dope. And I played with Big Daddy in DC. And he put every bit of that big body in that Porsche. You know what I mean? He was loving them Porsches.
I'm telling you, he had a white 600 coupe, man. I was like, man, this is it, man.
Right.
I'm an 18-year-old kid from a small town in Ohio. I'm like, dude, no, I got to get to the league, man. That changed my whole thought process.
I know that's right. Okay, so that got you going and you was percolating. And if I told you right now that soon as you got to where you thought you were going to get to when you saw Big Daddy and you said that was going to be me and it happened. And I said to you, O-Pace, money's going to change everything. What would your response be? And would you do things the same way that you did when you did it? Or would O-Pace today tell that O-Pace something different?
No, you know what? I was one of those guys. I was really fortunate. Although my ultimate dream was to be in the league. I was fortunate enough to be with some good people early on in my career, LaVar, where to your point, I've always been a serial entrepreneur, but I've also always been enamored with generational wealth. And when you see the wealthy families in the world, how they get that wealth, how they maintain it. So my financial advisor as a rookie said, hey, Orlando, where do you want to be 10 years from now? Right. So we set goals in terms of where I wanted to be financially, but along obviously football is going to take care of itself if you do what you need to do. But then we set goals and what generational wealth, how much do you want to make simply off your investments when you're, 35, 30, 40 years old. So we kind of worked on that pattern throughout my career. We kind of, obviously invested correctly, did all the right things. And then a friend of mine, N.I.L Williams, had an awesome quote that I live by every day. It says, "Begin with the end in mind," right? So I knew where I wanted to be. And I'll tell you this story. To your point, I was broke in Sandusky. I had nothing. My family didn't have much. And I knew for a fact, my motivating factor from that standpoint on was I didn't want to go back to living like that, right? I didn't want to go back to either paycheck to paycheck or, having to work for the rest of my life, because I've seen that throughout my childhood. So for me, I was really focused on how can I grow my wealth? How could I invest smartly, limit my dumb mistakes, because we all make them. We all buy some crazy stuff that we have no reason for buying, but we do it just because we're NFL players. So try to limit those mistakes as much as possible. And then obviously, still have that, still stick to that game plan of, financial freedom, that kind of thing.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Now, you are the first guest that I'm having. I had Thomas Sr. on, Thomas Davis. I had Leonard Wheeler on last week. They gave amazing stories of perseverance, the road less traveled. Things were a little bit more defined for you, accomplishment wise. You just have always been the best. Can you just talk about what does that lead to? Like, being in high school, everybody thinks the elite guys like yourself ultimately have it easy. You have it made, and all you have to do is really just make sure that your grades are good and that you're eligible. For you, was it that simple, or what would your advice be to those guys out there trying to be as elite as Orlando Pace, to get recruited, to get exposure, to get looked at? What would that look like today?
So obviously, and people say, I remember saying this, "Oh, you're just a big kid, man. That's why you made it," right? But it's a process that you have to go through. Every big kid or every great athlete, and we probably can name 3 or 4 just from our community that was probably better athletes than you and I that did make it.
That's right.
Right. So, and we always say grades, the process, training, everything. And then just being a genuinely good kid, staying out of trouble. We all come through these crossroads in life where you can go with the friends just making a bad decisions, or you can stay focused on your sport. For me, I always believed in me, though, LaVar. I always believed in my skill level, my ability, things I wanted to do. And I had real goals in place. I wanted to play college football. I knew at the time my mom couldn't afford it, so I had to go out and focus on really, my skill level. I was a basketball player, so I realized people love to see big guys that can move, that can do a lot of different things. So I always worked on my footwork, worked on things like that. And then once I got recruited, started getting some buzz start happening, man, I started to work harder. And you can't really rest on your morals at that point, man, because at some point, somebody's going to surpass you. In high school, if you don't work hard, you're not going to be recruited. When you get to college, they're bringing 4 or 5-star guys in there every year. So you got to fight those guys off, right? And then in the league, if you don't perform, they're going to cut you. And you ain't going to have much of a league. So you got to always grind. You can never rest on your morals. And I would tell every kid that if you ever in a position, don't read your press clippings. Keep focused on what you are, believe in who you are, and grind, because they're always trying to replace you. No matter what level you are, college, pros, they're always trying to replace you. You got to stay on top of your game at all times.
Indeed. All right, so I'm gonna hit you with this is an exclusive for everyone out there, just in case they don't know. But we had met before this, but we did an ESPN shoot in Bristol where we was bullying. I don't even remember the jockey's name, but we was shaking him down in the toilet stall. But one of the coolest things that happened for me is that I was with a future Hall of Famer and with arguably 2 of the great, hell, 3 of the greatest athletes to ever do it in professional sports, and yourself and the Williams sisters, and they had the beads in their head back then.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
What is your recollection of that, man?
Hey, that's so cool, man. I tell people all the time about that. Like, it was so cool, obviously see what everybody's doing, man. Probably what 15, 20 years later. We had such a great time, man. And at the time, they had, to your point, they had the beads in their hair, man. But I was like, man, who are these are tennis phenoms right now at the time, but they came out to be, two of the greatest tennis players of all time. And we had a chance to spend some time with them there in Bristol. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that. I do think back to that a lot, LaVar. Actually,
indeed, that's pretty cool. And so here's what I leave you with. And this has been great, and anything that you would love to plug, any business numbers or contacts or whatever it is, any charities, just you let me know. You can plug it, but ultimately for Orlando Pace, you have accomplished for so long at such a high level. Do you ever think about or wonder what you want your remembering legacy to be? How do you want people to speak about Orlando Pace? Remember Orlando Pace. When we hit our checkout day, we no longer exist. What do you want people to remember you for?
You know what, LaVar, it's easy. People could always go back and look at our football, what we've done on the football field. Obviously, with the Hall of Fame, that bus will be there long, 40,000 years is what they tell me.
Amazing.
And then and now post-football, it's about the relationships and the development of my kids and the people that I'm in touch with, my network, when they can speak on you and say, hey, he had a positive impact on my life. You know what I mean? He was a good man and did things the right way. And, obviously the older we get, those relationships become more important. And I do understand that part of it. But I want to say, he was a good man who worked extremely hard and did what he had to do and loved his family and loved his friends. So that's
awesome. Awesome, man. It's beautiful, man. This is Orlando Pace, y'all. The great, the GOAT himself.
Oh, come on.
The GOAT himself. Super Bowl champ, crazy times All-Pro, crazy time Pro Bowler. Just achieved at the highest of the highest. What an amazing career, but even more so, what a dope dude you are, bro. Always have looked up to you and admired the things that you have done. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on, bro.
Man, that's Orlando Pace. This is Up On Game presents Conversations with a Legend. I'm LaVar Arrington. That's the GOAT. And this is this is an episode. It's a wrap. There's nothing else to be said. That's O Pace. We'll catch y'all next time.